Do you know what the #1 topic discussed and debated on the stage in Milwaukee in the Republican debate last night was? Do you know what it was? Do you? Abortion. Abortion was the #1 topic debated on the stage of the Republican debate. Republicans almost universally, almost unanimously agree that abortion should be banned in this country, at the very least at the 15-week mark. Some people banned outright. I mean, the only discussion is where you ban it and how you ban it, at what point of gestation you ban it. But why was abortion even an issue brought up at a Republican debate, since it's something we pretty much all agree on? Well, you'll have to ask the moderators over there at Fox News about that. But it did present a pretty fiery exchange between Mike Pence and Nikki Haley. It wasn't about whether we Republicans stand for life. It was really about how you might be able to lead and get a national federal ban. Here, watch.
The people, and that's where it should be. But when you're talking about a federal ban, be honest with the American people. We haven't had 45 pro-life senators in over 100 years. So no Republican president can ban abortions any more than a Democrat president could ban all those state laws. Don't make women feel like they have to decide on this issue when you know we don't have 60 Senate votes in the House.
70% of the American people support legislation
but
to ban abortion
of the
after
Senate
a baby is
does
capable
not.
of experiencing pain. It's just going to take leadership.
Hold on.
Let's bring in Emma Waters here. She's a research associate for the Center of Life, Religion, and Family at Heritage Foundation. Emma, what am I missing here? We won. We overturned Roe v. Wade. It's now in the hands of states. Why are we arguing about this thing amongst Republicans?
I think the fact of the matter is that not every Republican is as pro-life as they claim to be. And for so many years, you could get away with claiming that if there was the opportunity, if Roe v. Wade was overturned, that they would take a stand for life. But I think we've seen, and Nikki Haley is probably a pretty good example of this, that the moment that it became possible, people started coming up with reasons why they shouldn't actually support a strong pro-life legislation. The fact that Nikki Haley wants to take the onus off of the American people and just throw it to Congress, this Congress she says we can't overcome, is the worst kind of learned helplessness that we need to be pushing back against in the conservative movement today.
All right, when it came time for Ron DeSantis to speak, he said, guys, the Democrats want to allow babies to be killed right up until the moment of birth. So, I mean, considering where they are on this issue, it does sort of put in perspective where we are, even if we have some disagreements as to whether there should be a federal ban or not.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I think Mike Pence said that 70% of people would ban abortion at pain. I think about 50% of Americans are okay with a 15-week abortion ban, which is still far more liberal than most European countries are right now. So you're right that a lot of people agree that we do need to have some sort of limit on it. And they're actually trending closer to the 6 to 15-week mark. South Carolina's Supreme Court just upheld that abortion ban. So we're starting to see really positive movement in that direction.
Yeah. And by the way, one of the answers to Nikki Haley saying, well, 70% of the Senate doesn't agree with that. Well, that's a good argument to actually get a new Senate, right? I mean, we should take that issue to the states during senatorial elections. Every 2 years, we have a third of the Senate up for grabs.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Like the people have the power here, because eventually senators and those who are elected are going to do the things they think their constituents want. This is actually not as complicated of an issue as I think people are trying to make it. Well, at least some people are trying to make it out to be at the end of the day.
Yeah, but again, it frustrates me to see Republicans on a national stage debating something, you know, compared to what the Democrats stand for. Take a look at this. Jen Psaki, former spokesperson for the White House, so of course now she's a host on MSNBC. She tweeted out, "No one supports abortion up until birth." Emma Waters, that's just a lie, isn't it?
It's an absolute lie, and this is where the beauty of Twitter really came to save the day. So since she's tweeted that, there have been a nonstop array of clips of Jen Psaki herself saying that she supports the Women's Health Protection Act.
Yeah.
And what's
in fact, we've got one of them just so everybody can see from her own little red-headed mouth. Here we go.
He's announced his strong support for passage of the Women's Health Protection Act, urges Congress to pass it.
There you go. Tell us, Emma Waters, what is the Women's Health Protection Act? Because it makes it sound like making sure women can go and get their checkups and make sure that they can get x-rays if needed.
Right, and this is what's so bizarre and deceptive about it, because not only would this bill allow for unlimited abortions up until birth, the way that they decide if someone is qualifying for an abortion is based on 4 different areas. So, one, it could be a medical need. 2, it could have to do with the woman's emotional state. Is she feeling anxiety? Is she feeling depression? Is she feeling sad about this child? That could be a reason for her to get an abortion. They also bring in her age, if she's too old, if she's too young, and they also bring in her financial situation. So if she's unexpectedly pregnant and not making enough money, that in and of itself is justification for an abortion at any point in her pregnancy. I mean, that's the sort of radical legislation that the Democrats have been putting forward for years, including right after Roe v. Wade was overturned.
So let's take a look at Jen Psaki's tweet again, because the audaciousness, it's just so clear. No one supports abortion up until birth. And then we just showed you her specifically saying that the president, who she worked for and spoke on his behalf, was urging Congress to pass the Women's Health Act. So I'm looking at the congressional record. This is not some website that's spinning what the Women's Health Protection Act is. This is the congressional record. It says the bill prohibits governmental restrictions on the provision of and access to abortion services. That means if a state said you can't have an abortion past 20 weeks, let's say, this federal bill would override that. It literally says no restrictions. That means up until the point of birth.
Yeah, you are reading it right. And that's just how crazy this is. You have Virginia State Delegate Kathy Tran, who in 2019 said that her bill that she put forward and didn't pass would allow for an abortion up to the point of dilation when a woman is about to give birth to a fully formed child, not to mention countless examples of legislation in California that would effectively allow for this sort of thing. You've had outright infanticide where people have considered, there are even clips where you see Democrats talking about, well, when the baby's born, maybe then we can pause and talk with the woman and see what she wants to do with this child. And this is not a child with medical issues. This is not a child who's about to die. This is a perfectly healthy, fully formed child that they want to have a discussion about.
So, I mean, personally, I think this was the fault of the moderators. I get so frustrated as a conservative Republican when I'm sitting down and hearing a debate of our potential leaders talking about the issues that are important to us, and suddenly we get mired down in a debate that's really framed out of Upper West Side Manhattan. Now, again, I agree with you that there are some issues here that need to be resolved within the Republican Party, and I think that state elections will resolve that. But is this really something that should be first and foremost, considering where the Democrats stand on this issue?
You know, I think it is the elephant in the room that with Roe v. Wade overturned and the power of the Dobbs decision and all of the positive movement we are seeing on the states that they did have to address. Now, I do agree with you, though, that by making this one of the first questions, and if you saw the stats, we actually spent more time on abortion last night in the debate than we did any other topic. I think that language and that framing is absolutely ceding the left's talking points. Instead of talking about abortion and how long would we let a child live before we kill the child, we should be talking about what it looks like to create a culture of life where all the mothers and all the children can flourish, and really getting a holistic discussion on what that would look like. And I think you're right that at the end of the day, we would have much rather have seen the Republicans talk about what it would look like to foster that culture of life rather than just talking about it in the negative regarding abortion.
And again, you're here with Heritage Foundation. You're not in the business of endorsing or criticizing candidates per se. You're here to talk about the issue. But within the framework of the discussion last night, it sounds like you think that this was a real missed opportunity for Nikki Haley.
I think that it would have been really nice to see all of the candidates really step up and take a bold stand when it comes to a culture of life and policies or ways that we could support that. And that includes all members on the stage who maybe did or didn't speak so favorably of abortion rights.
Yeah. So who do you think did the best job, or which? It doesn't have to be just one.
I think that I absolutely loved the fact that Vivek Ramaswamy managed to mention the importance of an intact married family, not once, not twice, but 4 different times when he talked about the root causes of crime. He talked about the root causes of a good education. He talked about national identity and national flourishing. And every single time he went back and said that it's the fact that my parents were married, that they had a healthy relationship, that I'm where I am today. And I think that's probably one of the most understated parts of the debate is just how family-centric he was in that discussion. And that's the sort of thing that we want to see from the Republican debates going forward.
Emma Waters, thank you for our extensive post-debate coverage tonight. She is with Heritage Foundation. Thank you, Emma. There's more to come here on O'Connor Tonight. Keep it here. You're watching the Salem News Channel.